Article from the New York Post, Barr says there is a quote unquote false narrative that many black people are shot by white cops. Attorney General Barr on Wednesday defended law enforcement, saying that there is a false narrative that many unarmed black people are shot by cops. Barr made the comments during a wide-ranging interview with CNN's Wolf Blitzer, where he had been rejected. He also rejected the idea that systemic racism exists in the justice system. Quote, I think the narrative that police are in some epidemic of shooting of unarmed black men is simply a false narrative, and that the narrative is based on a race war, Barr said. I agree. I think this says it all. This scene right here, definitely, it's a glimpse into America, where one side says, I can't breathe, and the other side says, of course you can breathe. I can breathe. And then you have the QAnon people that I think that they're onto something. Probably there's a lot of fake news around it, but there are cartels, there are human trafficking networks. It's not a far-fetched idea to think that a cartel and a human trafficking network pawned some politicians. I mean, come on. Quote, I think the narrative that the police are in some epidemic shooting of black men is simply a false narrative, and also a narrative that's based on race, Barr said. I think I repeated that right, sorry. White feminism is it's a racist form of feminism, where they put white women's issues at the top of everyone else's issues. And this happens where first off, women are getting almost 2/3 of the college degrees. There's institutionalized white feminism and anti-white racism in the workplace and at the far leftist universities, where they're forcing the staff members to go around in circles at these meetings and say token anti-racist, feminist, and pro LGBTQTAI 2CBICTDDBD beep 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 CBD beep. For real, dog. You gotta try some of that beep 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 shit. Man, that shit fucks you up, dog. The fact is that it's very rare for unarmed African Americans to be shot by a white police officer. In many instances where cops use excessive force, Barr said, the case is fear and not because of race. I think there are two justice systems, he told Blitzer, while Barr acknowledged that there are situations where black Americans are treated differently in a system that their white counterparts, he said, didn't think that there was necessarily racism. And proof of this is that Africans are the highest paid group of immigrants in the United States. They are not complaining about being oppressed. Their grades are not low. They try hard. It's because their attitude towards education is different. I am an engineer, so I'm going to be biased. I'm going to be the one that says is repping the STEM, entrepreneurship, design, and education, STEM ed. So I do, I'm going to be biased, but I'm always going to say that you should be studying. You should be reading. You should be reading thousands of news articles like me. You should be doing something original, trying to break out. Don't try to do things because it's popular. Do things because it's right. And if it's really unpopular, but it's the right thing to do, that's how you know you found what you should be doing. It's what I'm doing, right? You think this is popular, man? No, man, I'm in a leftist shithole, dude. I've got all the lefties just throwing rotten tomatoes at me, dude, hating on me. You're a sexist. You're a misogynist. You're like, nah, I am the misogynistic imaginary misogynistic pig boogeyman, the one from MSNBC and the Southern Poverty Law Center. It is me. I am the one that are oppressing the women. Yes, up here in my ivory tower with my fancy suit from the Goodwill. I am the one who is underpaying the women. It is me. I took all of the money. But as you can see, this is a bunch of nonsense. Obviously, I'm not oppressing the women from up top my ivory tower. That would obviously be the imaginary misogynistic pig boogeyman, the imp. One from the Southern Poverty Law Center that they say is the part of the hate group. He's the misogynist, the one that hates women because he doesn't agree with everything they say. He's not a feminist. So that means he's got to be a womanator, right? All right. You gone cuckoo. While Barr acknowledges that there are situations where Black America... Oh, hold on, sorry. The nation's top prosecutor also touched on the civil rights protests raging across the U.S., especially in Portland, Oregon, and Kenosha. They're not protests, they're race riots. They hate Donald Trump. They're trying to get Donald Trump elected. That's what it's all about. It's always been about trying to get Donald Trump elected. They don't care about the ballot pact. They fail to understand that the point of a protest is not, in a democracy, is not to demand change, to force people to do everything that you want. The goal is to bring out as many people as you can to show the people who support this and why you should support it, because when you try to argue facts with people, you will not get the facts. They don't care about the facts. And even if you are using facts, it still does not mean that you're not going to get extremely pissed off and be a tyrant. Race rant, something about a tyrant. I'm sorry, I spaced out. Damn it. The moment I said Democrat race riot, I'm like, what? Is this shit really going on? I mean, for real. This is like the most parallel universe shit I've ever seen. It's like 98 straight days of race riots from white feminists and Antifa up in the ivory, and all getting fueled by the ivory tower liberals, the fake news industrial complex, spitting out that fake news all day. They got so much fake news, it's like a fire hydrant. Just like fake news. Race riots raging across the U.S., specifically in Portland and Kenosha, in recent weeks over the police shooting of the alleged rapist Jacob Blake, one that beat and raped his girlfriend. And then he wasn't supposed to be at the house. Then he showed up and he had a knife. He was took the woman's keys, wouldn't let him leave. And then the cops came. Then he was trying to go grab a knife up in the car. He had the knife in his hand. But then they said something about it being in a car, but you can see it in his hand. Then they shot him because he was going to either stab her with the knife or get into a high-speed chase with the kids in the car. But the story that you heard was that white cop kills unarmed black man because they're trying to get scam donations. They know if they tell you a lie about what happened, that they'll get millions of dollars in donations from GoFundMe. George Soros, through moveon.org, This is the funniest thing about the intellectual dark web is like this shit's just like you're first you're like, all right, George Soros funding race riots, like what you're on one like Democrats, deep state with some pedophile. You're like, what is it? This is insane, dude. Like, and then you start to look into the weeds of it, and you're like, oh well, there's drug cartels, right? Right? They got massive, huge sex trafficking, human trafficking operations, right? Oh, all right. You'd be foolish to think that a cartel with billions of dollars hasn't paid off at least one politician, right? Okay, do they have any videotapes of them having sex with minors? Doing drugs on tape? Statistically, you're likely to find more than one. This is the thing. You're like, okay, most of this stuff sounds kind of crazy at first. And then you start to look at the evidence and you're like, wow, Democrats are some of the most insanely corrupt people I've ever seen. They're like on another level. They're like, nah, bro, hold my beer. Barr described how authorities were tracking members of the left-wing Antifa movement who were crossing state lines to incite violence at demonstrations and even purchasing weapons before riots, possibly with donations from Black Looter Mob scams on GoFundMe, Change.org, or through George Soros on the MoveOn.org, where they're doing all these scam petitions. I've talked to every police chief in every city where there's been major violence, and they've all had identified Antifa as the ramrod for the violence. And quote, he said, also, too, I would like to blame the hood Democrats, the low-income, big city liberals who dogmatically vote for ivory tower liberals because they think somehow that's magically going to make the ivory tower power structure go away, and then you rise up to the top. Like, you're crazy. Oh man, you're down there, dude. There's a lot of people down there, man. The bottom of the pyramid. Bottom of the pyramid. Yeah, you're not going up there through the ivory tower power structure, dude. I hate to be the one to break it to you, but voting for an ivory tower liberal is not going to magically lift the glass ceiling.